So I'm Dr. Wong. I'm a neurologist and neuro-ophthalmologist. I'm based in London. As part of my work, I see a lot of people with different types of neuro-ophthalmological conditions, including visual snow syndrome. I'm also an active neuroscience researcher, and I am also very passionate about empowering people through lifestyle-based measures and mindfulness practices to improve their health and well-being. As part of my day-to-day work as a medical doctor, I see people coming to my clinics for medical conditions such as visual snow syndrome. So I've been very aware of this condition for a long time, even before it was highly publicized because of my training. And I'm really glad to say that in the recent years, there has been a lot of research and publications about the understanding and how visual snow happens. And that alongside my interest in mindfulness and lifestyle-based interventions has come together with a research using mindfulness to treat visual snow syndrome. I wanted to bring mindfulness into my clinical practice as a medical doctor, and I thought it was really important for me to get good quality certification in this area. And that's how I went to Oxford Mindfulness Center for training. And I chose Mindfulness-Based Cognitive Therapy, MBCT, as the basis for the research I did on visual snow syndrome because of the strong evidence basis of MBCT for treating clinical conditions. So there is a lot of research to show the benefits of mindfulness and mindfulness-based interventions on brain connections. This could include benefits of mindfulness such as from cognitive function to memory to general well-being, of course. So there are lots of research trials. There is a really good training pathway for MBCT as a very structured program. So in my clinical practice, I was seeing people with visual snow syndrome, and with the recent years research showing that there is dysregulation of the visual pathways, it got me thinking about what can we do to treat the condition and help people with visual snow syndrome. I was very touched by the experience of people suffering from this condition, and it really felt like we urgently need something to help people experiencing this condition. It was also around that time that I wanted to bring mindfulness into my clinical practice with the background of the benefits of mindfulness in myself and also wanting to bring it into my clinical setting and research setting. That's when I got my training as a teacher in mindfulness-based cognitive therapy through Oxford Mindfulness. And that's why I ended up choosing MBCT for the visual snow syndrome studies. My first involvement with Visual Snow Initiative was their generous funding of the functional MRI component of my first study. So my first study on using mindfulness to treat visual snow syndrome started in 2019. I managed to get funding from two small charities who were very supportive, and we got the study going. And the first group finished. It's a group learning program to deliver this intervention over 3 groups. The first group finished in February 2020. And unfortunately, the second group start was delayed because of COVID-19 pandemic. However, the silver lining was that it allowed us to do interim analysis for the results from the first group to be presented to the American Neurological Association meeting. And with that, I approached VSI for funding of the functional MRI. I always wanted the functional MRI to be included in the study. And I was just so touched and grateful that from the very first meeting with VSI, they've been very open to the idea, and they were very excited about the results that I presented at the American Neurological Association, which led on to them funding the functional MRI component of the first study, which I think was one of the most important aspects, because the results of that first study, particularly with the functional MRI, it showed that brain network connections changed with the mindfulness treatment, the MBCT vision. And people also reported improvement of their symptoms. So I've been so grateful that that happened. It wouldn't have happened without the support of VSI, and that led on to presentation and publications of my results, which led on to further research on using MBCT vision to treat visual snow syndrome. To bring mindfulness into my research and clinical setting, I wanted to be sure I was trained by a reputable institution with a very strong record, which is why I went to Oxford Mindfulness. And it was from there, as I was getting trained, I got incredibly inspired about bringing in the evidence basis for mindfulness in my clinical practice, with visual snow syndrome being at the top of my of the conditions I wanted to show evidence for. And it was during that training that I watched a documentary that touched me tremendously. It was about Jon Kabat-Zinn, who is oftentimes considered the father of mindfulness, because he brought in mindfulness into the secular setting. He brought it back in the 1980s to treat chronic pain, and it's evolved so much over 40 years where it is actually delivered as treatment in medical conditions. And that was how I got inspired to do good quality research to show the evidence basis for the place of visual snow, for mindfulness in treating visual snow syndrome. I started bringing in mindfulness-based approaches into my personal life. Must be about 15 or more years ago. It's really hard to remember when it first started, because I think it slowly entered my life in different ways. And with my ongoing delivery of research into this, I'm seeing so many positive benefits of mindfulness in people's lives, in different walks of lives. And that touched me a lot, which is why I've continued to bring research in this area to show evidence basis to help more people. We got going with the research study in 2019. We finished it by 2022, the long gap because of the pandemic. And the results showed that people improved with their visual snow syndrome symptoms. And this was significant from a statistical point of view. And it also from the functional MRI studies, it showed changes in the brain networks. So it's the first time that we had a study to show that there was a treatment that changed the functional MRIs in people with visual snow syndrome. We got that study published in the Journal of Neuro-Ophthalmology, and that has led on to the next stage of research that we are currently doing. So having the functional MRI scans as part of that first research study was absolutely crucial, which is why I'm so grateful for the trust and belief from the VSI to fund that component of the study, because we needed to show in an objective way of something changing in the brain. And we did with the functional MRI to show that the brain networks were changing. It was changing in two aspects actually. One was in an area called the dorsal mode network, and the other was to do with the visual pathway aspects. So this kind of confirms what we were expecting from the point of view of how visual snow syndrome happens, where there is a dysregulation of the brain networks involving the visual pathways. after the first study, which was what we call an open label study, whereby everybody who entered the study knew that they were going to have the treatment. So that was really the first step. It showed by proof of principle this could be done, and this therefore needed to be confirmed with the gold standard. Gold standard would be something called the Randomized Controlled Trial, where people are randomly allocated to get the treatment or a control group, so that there is a head-to-head comparison of whether getting MBCT vision really made a change to people who have visual snow syndrome. The randomized control trial is going ahead smoothly. Our target was to recruit 60 people with visual snow syndrome, and we have managed to recruit that. At the time of this interview, we have been successfully delivering interventions to 4 groups at this stage. So this is a randomized control trial. So we are doing a head-to-head comparison, comparing people who get the treatment and people who wait. We have asked people to wait for 5 months because the very first study showed that the longer people practice MBCT vision techniques, the better they got. But of course, we can't ask the control group to wait forever. And based on some guidance from people from the first study, people with visual snow syndrome, we have designed the study so that people have to wait for 5 months before they get the intervention. So we would expect that the study results for the 5-month outcome to be out by the end of 2025. We will need to have time to analyze all that data and to put it together to understand the analysis and to present this at medical meetings for evaluation by peers.